Good morning, YouTube. Perhaps some of you might remember this little radio. This was the RCA Victor RJA14Y AM tube radio that I brought back to life this end of June and the 1st of July this past summer. And once the internal restoration was complete, this radio got set aside because I wasn't done with the cabinet. I had to get all these doggone paint splotches off of it. And fortunately, last night I let it soak in the sink in hot water and just waited, let time do its job, and it softened up all them paint splotches enough that I could just pick them right off. Now, this cabinet finish is dull as crap on this cabinet. It's had a lot of scratches in it. A lot of places where the paint was stuck, where I picked it off, it left like just surface scratches. So what we're going to do is wax this cabinet up with good old-fashioned turtle wax. Now, I have used this time and time again on plastics, and it works well on radios as long as you don't slather it on thick and let it sit for hours on that cabinet. You'll get it right back off with no problems. So we cleaned it up externally. Now, the bad part was, the drawback was, this radio had splotches of paint here and here, and when they came off, it took the chrome with them. So I'm going to go find some touch-up paint or a touch-up marker that is a shiny metallic to match this, and we'll touch it back up. I don't want it perfect. I don't expect any of these radios to turn out absolutely perfect. I don't intend for that when I set out. But I want them to look good, but I don't want them to not show all their battle scars and years of use and things that have affected them in their life. I want them to look like a used radio, but I want them to function good. That's just my opinion. That's how I go about my mission when it comes to restoring stuff like this. And internally, cleaned the cabinet up. It was very grubby. Took the metallic shield off the top. I got to glue that back in. And I want to tell you something I discovered with these cabinets and cleaning these radios and stuff. For external parts like the cabinet and knobs and stuff, Mr. Clean Magic Eraser works great for that. It takes all the nasty grime off. For the knobs, it shined them right up after I let them soak in dish soap overnight. Hit them with that Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and picked all the grime out of the notches and crevices. Perfect. They worked out great. While I'm doing that, I've actually got the chassis of this radio sitting out here on the table playing, because after I fixed this radio and got it working, I really didn't have many hours on it, so just letting it sit here and work and make sure everything goes good. And while that cabinet's drying, I'll take a Q-tip. Of course, I'll shut the unit off, safety first, duh, and use some isopropyl alcohol on a Q-tip and clean all down in between all the little things on this chassis plate. You know, I wiped all the dust out last evening with a dry, very soft bristle brush. Just went down in there and cleaned everything real good. And I'll come back through here and just clean it real good with the alcohol. Let it dry thoroughly. And then we'll be able to solder the speaker back in. Oh, what did I do with them? Oh, there they are. Right in front of me. Here's how the knob's cleaned up. Let me find my little light. I got stuff scattered everywhere today, folks. There it is. But them knobs cleaned up nice. They're nice and shiny. The brown is really bright in it again. Like that knob there was all full of gunk in the grooves. What I'm going to do whenever I get around to fixing the chrome on the front face of the plastic case, I'm going to take whatever I find and touch up these numbers, because originally there was chrome plating, and you can't see it on here because the light's too bright, but right there where the 55 is at, that's actually got a little bit of the chrome left. So I'm going to hit them numbers as I work on that front and make them pop again. They'll look really nice. They'll stand out good against that brown. So what we'll do, we'll take the old turtle wax, go real light with it. You don't need a lot. And just take it, lightly buff it on there. Like I said, you don't need a lot. And then we'll go over here and get a Q-tip. Dip it in there real light. Don't need much. And we'll hit this spot right here. You don't want to get it into that grill, because that'll be a pain to pick all that out of there. So that's it. Now while that sits there and dries, like I said, I'll work on that chassis, and I'll give you an update here in a little bit. Well, after 2 coats of turtle wax, that cabinet's nice and smooth. But it's not going to be perfect. I mean, there's imperfections and blemishes and scratches in it and dullness. You know, it's just from its use. And, Jiminy, the thing's 46 years old. It's going to have some wear. But it turned out really nice. It's actually got a sheen and shine to it again. And this chrome, I kind of went around this with a Q-tip. Actually cleaned up rather nice. Went down in here. So that's done. The chassis cleaning, it's going slow, but it's getting there. This thing is absolutely filthy. I've went over it probably 8 or 10 times, and every time it gets a little less. So it's getting a little cleaner, slowly but surely. Like right down in there, see all that gunk? That alcohol will take it right off. You use a ton of Q-tips doing that work. But I feel better that it be done now. It looks better. So that's where we're at right now. Well, I do believe this chassis is just as clean as it's going to get. It was like pushing around mud, but that alcohol did pretty good. Whereas if I had 46 years of grime on me, I probably wouldn't give up the fight too easy either. But it cleaned up pretty good. So, this pup's ready for reinstallation. Oh, one thing I was going to note. The back side of these knobs, they had safety retainers. That was made or put on there so these knobs could not be detached from the cabinet. Well, screw them. To get them off, I snipped them with a pair of side cutters. They are not going back on. I know that's getting away from the originalness of the radio, but I think it's for the better. And it was hard to get this chassis out with those on because you had to keep fighting it, and eventually something was going to break. So, I'm not saying I'll never have to take this chassis out of its cabinet again, but I want to make sure that if I do, none of these knobs are going to bust, or we're going to break the circuit board trying to pull it out of there, what have you. It's possible it could, because this fits in there very tight. So let's get to reassembling. Well, here she is, all put back together again. I can't find the proper cord. This does have a save your life type cord on it. The way you pull the back off, it disconnects it from the main here on the circuit board. I've got it around here somewhere. It takes a special U-shaped clip that slips over it, and then when you put the back on it, clips it back in. Tuning capacitor has been oiled. Tubes have been cleaned. The circuit board was cleaned with alcohol. It come out very nicely. It's been tested. It works. The speakers soldered back in. One of the few things I didn't like about this radio, RCA, even though they had a big cabinet, they tried to jam everything in one couple spots, you know. Like down here on this speaker, the bottom green wire that attaches to the speaker is right up against this IF can in this tube right here. Granted, this tube doesn't get near as hot as what the output in the rectifier does, but still, it's just, you got all this room. Why didn't you turn the speaker? And this is the way it was installed. I didn't put it back in that way. Why don't you turn it upside down or put it over here or what have you? Because the wires aren't long enough to put it up here on the green side. So, I mean, it's just one of the things that makes you scratch your head, but that's the way it was. Again, the heat shield on the top of the cabinet's been super glued back in. It took some time for it to dry. Hang on a minute while I put this back on. And there we go. Cheater cord's hooked up, the back is on. Let's flip this baby around and take a look at her. Well, that is one snazzy looking radio. Nice and cleaned up, polished. Let's plug her in and give her a listen. I unplugged my battery charger from the other side of the room, so hopefully we'll be able to pick something up here. Take a minute for them tubes to warm up.
The Joe Hilo price is very based on how you buy. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
You're in luck because
Found or enough is enough. This is continuing coverage from News Radio 700 WLW with the 11.
Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. We are Foghorn.
News Radio and Lisa Brady. The 50,000-watt orange and black home of the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati, CSNS at 2:30.
Our baptism tells us that we are children of God, that we have a Heavenly Father who loves us and keeps His promises, and He has
possibly mixing with sleep this afternoon. The high near 40.
Okay, sorry about that. I ran out of memory card on my camera. It's only take about 6 minutes of video at a time. Let's try this again.
reaction as the judge made the announcement.
That we're expending. No increases in spending.
Seven Auto. The only hard part, figuring out which way is easier. Well, there's a lot of easy ways to put blame.
Something unpredictable in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
It's being there for my customers.
It's lending a hand at any hour.
And it's having my coworkers back, day or night.
You work harder.
Strains that we're seeing circulating in Ohio are the strains that are in the flu vaccine.
Neighboring West African countries are expected to join French forces in the fight against Al-Qaeda-linked rebels.
Well, there we go. Finally, after 6 months of initially starting the project, it's complete. I just got to find that cord that goes on this radio, and it'll go back in the office on the shelf, and all its restored glory. Turned out very nice. I now know what that weird spot on top of his cabinet is, because it gets hot. It's from that output tube. Just kind of got it warped just a little bit. And that's the nature of the beast. You know, nothing I can do about it. That's the way it was designed. Okay, now you're asking me what's next. Well, being this was a backlog project, I've got another backlog project that's supposed to have had a part 5 or 6 almost 3 months ago that never had it. What's that, you ask? Oh, the Westinghouse 44 AC1. I don't even want to screw with this thing again. That ain't that bad. I've rebuilt the chassis in it, all new capacitors, tested all the resistors. You've seen in the video that it did play. The problem was what needed to be worked on next, and I've done a video on this, is the record changer. I need to pull the mechanism apart out of the bottom of the changer, grease it, and reassemble it. This does use a static 120 flip over cartridge. I'm going to ask if anybody would know, how did this 3345/78 flip over part for the needle attach? It's got a hole in the end right here, and I'm assuming there was something that fit in there, screw or what have you, that also attaches into this hole right here on the end of the cartridge. I don't know if that's how you pick it up and set it on the record. I suppose it has. Over the years we've just gripped it and moved it where we want it and left it at that. So yeah, I got to flip this over, pull the whole changer mechanism out that sits in here, degrease it, re-grease it, reinstall it, tension everything up where it belongs, and put the tone arm back on. And I've got to find, this cord is not in bad shape. It's not hard. I just need to find an end for it. That one's got a crack in it, and the electrical tape's saving my life right now, so I kind of walk that line sometimes with this old stuff. So, I don't know if it's going to happen today, but over the next several days or weeks or what have you, whatnot, we're going to start working on this Westinghouse again. Thanks for watching.